The auction hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian floor, its ceiling lost somewhere in the artificial stars that twinkled overhead. Thousands of species from across the galaxy crowded the viewing platforms, their credits ready, their eyes hungry for the finest specimens the slave markets could offer. Varos hung in the suspension field, his lupin body trembling. Once, his fur had gleamed like moonlight on water silver white with streaks of cobalt blue that marked him as nobility among his kind. Now it was matted, dull, marred by scars from the fighting pits where he'd failed to entertain. His left hind leg hung at an awkward angle, never properly healed after his last defeat. Lot 847. The auctioneer's voice boomed, translated simultaneously into 5,000 languages. Candidate species from Theta Lyrae, combat trained. Starting bid, 50 credits. Silence. Varos's ears flattened against his skull. 50 credits wouldn't buy a decent meal in most stations. The auctioneer's mandibles clicked in annoyance. 40 credits? Any takers? More silence. Varos could feel the contempt radiating from the crowd. Weak, broken, worthless. The words echoed in his mind in a dozen alien tongues. His people had been warriors once, before the Confederation conquered them. Before they'd learned that strength alone meant nothing against orbital bombardment. 20 credits. Surely someone, 50 credits. The voice cut through the murmur of the crowd, human, female, speaking in clear. Galactic standard with that peculiar accent that marked her species as one of the newer additions to the Confederation. Varos's golden eyes tracked the sound. There, in the lower galleries where only the poorest bidders sat, a human woman with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, wearing the gray coveralls of a station maintenance worker. Her brown eyes met his, and something in that gaze made his heart, which had grown so cold, skip a beat. Sold to the human for 50 credits, the auctioneer announced quickly, clearly eager to move past this embarrassment. Lena Hart's quarters were small, barely 20 square meters in the station's lower residential rings. But they were clean, and more importantly, they were hers. She'd worked 3 jobs for 5 years to afford even this much independence. Varos collapsed on the floor as soon as the suspension field released him. Up close, Lena could see how badly he'd been treated, ribs showing through mangy fur. That leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Scars crisscrossing his body like a road map of suffering. Easy, she murmured, kneeling beside him with a medkit. I'm Lena. I'm going to help you. He growled, a weak sound that would have been threatening if he'd had any strength behind it. His translator collar crackled. Why? Because nobody deserves to be treated like that. She began scanning his injuries with a portable medical device. And because I know what it's like to be unwanted. Varos watched as she worked, his predator's instincts trying to reconcile this gentle human with everything he knew about the galaxy. Humans were new, barely a century into their membership in the Confederation. They were supposed to be soft, naive, unsuited for the harsh realities of interstellar civilization. Yet here was this woman, using her meager earnings to buy a broken alien from a slave market. Your leg needs surgery, Lena said, reviewing the scan results. I can't afford the medical bay, but I know someone who owes me a favor. Why help me? Varos asked again, genuinely bewildered. Lena looked at him, and for a moment her expression was far older than her years. Because someone helped me once when I had nothing, when I was weak and rejected. And they told me something I've never forgotten. Strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up. The next months were the hardest of Varos's life, and he'd survived combat pits. Lena's frienda, Centauran doctor with a gambling problem and a conscience, performed the surgery in exchange for Lena working double shifts in the station's waste recycling units. The most dangerous, demeaning work available, and she did it without complaint. Recovery was slow. Lena worked her jobs, came home exhausted, and still spent hours helping Varos with physical therapy. She brought him protein supplements she couldn't afford. Talked to him about Earth, about a childhood in Detroit's arcologies, about losing her parents to a shuttle accident and clawing her way up from poverty. Humans are weak, Varos said one night, his leg finally strong enough to bear weight. The galaxy says so. Lena laughed, but there was steel in it. The galaxy said a lot of things about a lot of species before they proved everyone wrong. You know what makes humans different, Varos? We're too stupid to know when we're beaten. We look at impossible odds and think, fuck it, let's try anyway. She used the English phrase, which the translator rendered literally. Varos's ears perked up. Fuck it. Yeah, fuck it. The galaxy wants to grind you down? Fuck it, get back up. They say you're worthless? Fuck it, prove them wrong. They think you're finished? She grinned. Fuck it, show them they made a mistake. For the first time in years, Varos felt something stirring in his chest. Not hope, he was still too broken for that. But something close, defiance, maybe. The beginning of pride. The annual Confederation Combat Championships were the most watched sporting event in known space. Warriors from 10,000 worlds competed for glory, wealth, and the honor of their species. Lena stood at the entrance to the arena, her hand on Varos's shoulder. 6 months of training in the station's abandoned cargo bays. 6 months of her teaching him what she'd learned from human martial arts, human tactics, human stubbornness. You don't have to do this, she said softly. Varos looked at her, this human who'd given everything to save a worthless alien slave. His fur gleamed silver-white again, properly groomed. His body was strong, filled out with muscle. His eyes burned with purpose. Yes, he said, I do. For you, for my people. To show the galaxy that being weak doesn't mean being defeated. The crowd roared as he entered. Many recognized him, the pathetic creature from the auction, now transformed. Impossible, they whispered. A trick, a deception. His first opponent was a Krolix warrior, 3 meters of scaled muscle and razor claws. The betting odds were 100 to -1 against Varos. The Krolix charged. Varos moved. Not with the straightforward aggression of traditional canic combat, but with something new, something human. He rolled under the swipe, used the opponent's momentum against them. Struck in nerve clusters, Lena had shown him on dozens of species anatomies. The Krolix fell. The crowd went silent. Fight after fight, Varos adapted, survived, won. He combined his natural predator instincts with human creativity, human unpredictability, human refusal to accept defeat. When he should have fallen, he got back up. When the odds said impossible, he thought, fuck it. The final match lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, Varos stood over a defeated Vraxian champion twice his size, his chest heaving, his body screaming in pain, and victorious. The crowd erupted. Species who'd never heard of Theta Lyrae now chanted his name. Prize money that would set him and Lena up for life was his. Offers for sponsorships, for training others, for representing his people in galactic politics flooded in. But Varos only had eyes for one person. Lena pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her face. He limped toward her, and they met in the middle of the arena. I told you, she said, laughing and crying at once. Too stupid to know when we're beaten. Varos pressed his forehead to hers, the candid gesture of deepest respect and affection. You saved me. No, Lena said firmly. I just helped you save yourself. That strength was always there, Varos. You just needed someone to believe in you. As they stood together in the roaring arena, 2 species separated by a galaxy of differences, united by something the Confederation was only beginning to understand. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their stubborn, illogical, beautiful refusal to abandon those who'd been left behind. Their belief that weakness was temporary, that champions could be found in the most broken places, and that everyone, no matter how rejected or worthless the galaxy deemed them, deserved a chance to prove their worth. And throughout the galaxy, in slave markets and fighting pits and forgotten corners, those who'd been deemed weak and worthless watched and hoped. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.